All right, Iran blows off a peace deal. Plus, we speak with former head of the U.S. Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. A quick update on the war tonight. The decimation of the Iranian regime does continue. CENTCOM giving the update late this afternoon, reporting drone attacks are now down 90%. There are indications Iran might be down to its last few hundred ballistic missiles. We had a guest last night say they might be down to 100 or less. All that led to what we saw yesterday, of course, which was this gift by Iran that the president talked about, allowing ships that are not affiliated with the U.S. or Israel to begin passing through the Strait of Hormuz. And that started today. We saw a number of ships move through that strait, which is what the White House really wanted. And then from that, we had a peace proposal from the U.S., reportedly offered to the Iranians via Pakistan, which is mediating all this. And it was a very strict one. No more terror proxies, no nukes ever, strict oversight on anything nuclear inside the country, and a 5-year hiatus on ballistic missiles. A lot of other details to that. And today, Iran effectively said no way to any of that, which makes it a very interesting day. Iranians calling the U.S. peace plan disconnected from reality. So now we take a step back, right? Here was Caroline Levitt today.
If Iran fails to accept the reality of the current moment, if they fail to understand that they have been defeated militarily and will continue to be, President Trump will ensure they are hit harder than they have ever been hit before. President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again. Their last miscalculation cost them their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense system. Any violence beyond this point will be because the Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated and refused to come to a deal.
All right, that from the White House today. With that, we go to Rob O'Neill, former Navy SEAL, to do some analysis here. So, things are changing quickly. Iran says they were scheduled to have talks before Midnight Hammer, and again 3 weeks ago before we launched Epic Fury. So they're insinuating that you want to talk right now because you're about to bomb us again. That 15-point plan, Rob, is basically everything that we wanted, and you can see it's a very one-sided plan we've offered to them. They say no way. What do you think happens now as we send the 82nd Airborne toward Tehran?
Well, good to be with you, Rob. Right now, the communication is tough because it's hard to decide with whom you're communicating on the Iranian side because we've killed everybody.
Yeah.
We sunk their Navy, their Air Force is decimated, and we've got complete control. We've got helicopters flying over and drones flying over with no threat of anti-air, so we own the space. The issue is you've got pockets here and there of former leadership, and a lot of them are launching the stockpiles that they're sitting on. Some of them are waiting for the 12th Imam, waiting for the end of time. Some guy just launched some at Diego Garcia, and I heard that's 4,000 kilometers away, however far that is in miles. But they're proving they've got technology that we didn't know they had, that we didn't want them to have, and we don't know what's next. And it's not necessarily the missiles. It's we can't have you make nuclear weapons because it's not going to be delivered by a missile. It'll be by a ship, and it'll come into one of the ports in Houston or in Baltimore or in New York. President Trump got some information that he didn't have before. Now is the time to strike. And they get a few days basically to the weekend, and then we can start hammering it again because you got someone who's not worried about the midterms. He's just going to thump him till he wins. He's
going to thump. I agree with that. I don't think he's concerned politically at all. He's done after this term, and I think he wants to get this accomplished no matter what it takes. You look at this, though. I mean, what do you think that if we do something this weekend, it feels like we're going to do something this weekend, and they offer a deal they're not going to take. What do you think it looks like?
I mean, it's going to look more of the same. We're going to hit more of the targets. Right now, we're trying not to hit their energy infrastructure just because we're going to have to rebuild that. Right. I mean, we've destroyed their military, and all they have right now is threatening Hormuz. And, unfortunately, the media is against us. The Brits are proving they don't want anything to do with us. So we got to get the economy rolling. We're energy independent. We're smart about it, but everyone that's fallen for the climate change hoax forever. Now they're going to be rationing gas. We're doing it for them, not for us, but it's for the global economy. We got to get oil through there, and we will. It's just a matter of how hard we got to push. We're going to keep pushing until we get it done.
Right. Some amount of ships are going through, not nearly enough to stabilize things. You got to get all that sulfur out of there, which is important for fertilizer and planting season. Do you think the Ayatollah is alive? Do you think he's coherent at all? It's been a few weeks.
No, it sounds like he's not there. I mean, if they're worried about whether or not he's gay with a leg blown off, they're not concerned about his. I mean, I think they're more concerned about they were not supposed to have any gay men in Iran. They've been telling us that for about 48 years. That's their biggest concern. It doesn't matter if he's alive. They're so decimated right now. They're hopefully, like I was saying about a year ago with the soft coup, they've got some of the infrastructure left that actually wants to play ball, and it's a big coalition working with every agency, to Mossad, to our CIA. What's on the ground? Who are we going to bring back? But we can't do what we did with the Ba'ath Party, just get rid of everyone and say, yeah, they won't fight us because we're the good guys. It doesn't work that way over there.
As we wait for what could be coming, maybe Friday into Saturday, the Strait of Hormuz is the critical thing. And I wonder what you think it'll take to get that clear, how long a mission to get that cleared up will be, and will it be successful enough to prevent any secret attacks?
Well, it's successful enough. I mean, if they raise the insurance, it's not worth the price for the tankers to bring it through. So we just got to go in there with some muscle. We have the U.S. Navy, which has proven since before this was a country, it's the greatest Navy in the world. They're just going to escort some ships. And the insurance companies aren't necessarily playing nice right now. And there's a lot more behind the scenes going on than in front of the scenes. But, once we get a certain flow there and beat up enough of the elite Revolutionary Guard, everything's going to be fine. You just got to give it time. We're not going to get the overnight, satisfaction that we love from social media and stuff like that. But there are good people with the right reasons doing what they think is the right with the best intelligence they have. And I'm going along with it now as long as what I'm hearing, I'm going with it.
Going with it. Rob O'Neill, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, for many months, Army veteran Joe Kent worked behind Tulsi Gabbard, running the U.S. National Counterterrorism Center under President Trump. Then last week, he resigned in defiance, put out a letter claiming that Israel had dragged the U.S. into this war. It's a move, of course, that damaged the administration's credibility after making a very bold move on Iran. A reporter asked the White House about Joe Kent today.
I was wondering if you would respond to some of this criticism of the administration from past allies like Joe Kent, who have said that the president's red line shifted. What is the administration's response to that criticism?
I think the president and I have both strongly responded to the criticism by Mr. Kent, who unfortunately resigned in disgrace and accused the president of basically being controlled by foreign countries and foreign manipulation, which is a ridiculous and laughable assertion. So his accusations have zero credibility as far as this White House is concerned.
All right, so with that, you know how the White House feels about Joe Kent. Joe Kent joins us tonight, former director of the National Counterterrorism Center. It's good to have you, and thanks for coming on. I want to start with you publicly resigned, saying there was no imminent threat from Iran. You say that Trump was manipulated and forced into this war by Israel. You point to the Rubio news conference on day 3, saying that Rubio kind of slipped and admitted to it in that moment. I want to play that moment before we get started.
The president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
So Rubio says that Israel struck and then we had to strike to protect our interests and diminish Iran's ability to retaliate against ourselves. My question to you as we get started here is, by that point, when Rubio said this, and by the point when we launched the invasion, we had already built up this entire armada at Iran's doorstep. And this was the same method that we had used weeks before when we ousted Maduro and then found a very willing second in command that fully capitulated to us in Venezuela and kind of got the ball rolling on this. Knowing that, why do you believe that Israel is the reason that we started dropping bombs on Iran?
Well, I agree with the assessment that Secretary Rubio and others gave at the time, because it's the truth. There was no imminent threat coming from Iran. The only imminent threat was coming from the Israelis, who said they were going to attack, which we knew would lead to the Iranians in turn attacking us. Prior to this iteration, the Iranians had observed a very strict escalatory ladder, and they were very serious about being engaged in negotiations with us. This was a threat to the Israeli strategic objective, which was crumbling the regime. Our goal was simply to make sure that Iran could not pursue a nuclear weapon. President Trump said Iran couldn't have a nuclear weapon. The former Ayatollah also held a prohibition against Iran developing a nuclear weapon. So the talks that the President Trump was engaged in were a direct threat to the Israelis. So the Israelis needed to accelerate an attack against Iran to precipitate this conflict, and that's exactly what has taken place since.
It felt more to me like that we knew when we started moving that armada that we were about to devastate Iran, and it was just a waiting game of getting it all in place. And I mean, when I look at this, and I want to ask you what you've seen that leads you to believe what you do, but I know that a lot of that you say you can't answer because it's classified. But it seems clear to me that the Trump administration has crafted a very ballsy foreign policy plan that is ending hostile regimes in the world, whether they be Venezuela, Cuba, we're after now Iran, which is a major check on places like Russia and China. All of those explanations to me make a lot of sense. And that's a policy that might annoy isolationists in this country, but at the same time, it has very little to do with Israel.
So first and foremost, what we saw the Israelis do from the time President Trump came into office was move the red line. President Trump said no nuclear weapons. The former Supreme Leader agreed. That got them to the negotiating table. After that, we saw senior Israeli officials continue to lobby the administration, saying that the administration's policy was no nuclear enrichment, period. Zero enrichment for Iran, which was not what President Trump had said. That was echoed by pro-Israeli media talking heads on Fox News and people in think tanks such as the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies and others that created this echo chamber, moving the red line away from no nuclear weapon to zero enrichment to sabotage the negotiations. Yeah. This repeatedly happened when President Trump conducted Midnight Hammer. That took away any ability for the Iranians to actually enrich. So we had no reason to go back to war with Iran. Then the Israelis came in and convinced President Trump once again that it was the ballistic missiles, it was a whole set of other demands that we had on Iran. That was the actual red line. And so as we continued to try to get the Iranians to the negotiating table, they were obviously skeptical after the 12-day war and after Midnight Hammer, but there was still a potential for negotiations there.
You don't think that, I mean, this is a country, I mean, Trump has talked about Iran for a very long time. I mean, there's interviews from back in the 80s where he shows humiliation at the way Iran treats us and their actions, saying if I ever had power, I would do this and this. I mean, this is a country that's tried to kill him. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons to do what he did. I mean, they're big in the economy. BRICS is a big threat. This is a hedge against that. For me, I guess my question is, can you give us some indication of what you have seen that lets you believe something like this? Because I understand why you believe it, and I think I understand why a lot of people have hitched onto it with you. But when I look at this objectively, and I know that it seemed like it was random that all of a sudden we're going into Iran, I think that's why it threw a lot of people off. I see a lot of really good reasons, a lot of very valid reasons. I also see a country that just threw ballistic missiles, as Rob O'Neill just said, 2,500 miles away, which is definitely a lot better than we thought they had. There was a lot of good reasons to take care of this problem right now that didn't have to do with Israel.
Well, by that rationale, we'll basically be going to war with anyone who has a ballistic missile capability, and generally is against our policies.
But real quick, not every country has a suicidal ideology that they live by, that they're willing to even die just to destroy their enemy the way Islamists do. I mean, this is not like Russia. This is not like China. Those people preserve their own life. Iran doesn't.
Again, if we look at the data on how the Iranians use the escalatory ladder, they're actually very pragmatic and realistic. The Iranians were attacking American troops under Biden because Biden was weak. The second President Trump came back in, the Iranians were able to get their proxies under control. They weren't attacking us. And this is because of the foreign policy that President Trump had in the first Trump administration, where he didn't take the bait of getting suckered into another regime change war in the Middle East that has never worked out for America, that has never been in the best interest of American policy or the American people. What President Trump did was, when the Iranians presented a threat like Qasem Soleimani, President Trump took decisive action, killed them, took them off the battlefield, and then used the strength of our economy against Iran, using max pressure sanctions. And we saw this play out just a couple months ago when the Iranian people took to the streets because of the economic conditions inside of Iran. So if we wanted to actually take down this regime, the last thing that we should have done is start killing off their leaders. That's causing a rally around the flag effect inside of Iran. And if we put boots on the ground, we're going to be plunged into a quagmire.
Attacking the regime, I mean, the regime just killed 20 or 30,000 of its own people. You think attacking the regime is going to cause those people to rally around the government?
It certainly is right now. We haven't seen any, there's no one out on the street rioting
they're
currently
get killed
against the regime. Well, the regime is active in a fight right now. This, if there was going to be a popular uprising, this would be the time to do it. And we're not even seeing minority communities in a meaningful way rise up against the government. It's basic human nature. You may have a problem within your own family, but if an outsider attacks you, you will rally around your family, you'll rally around your flag.
This
has been the long-standing assessment of what would happen in Iran.
I think that's a statement that could be made about more normal countries than Iran, where they, again, murder dissenters, and they have a very, we all know the Iranian regime inside of Iran has a very low approval rating. They're very, very hated among the people. I can't imagine they're ever going to get a majority of the people in that country to rally around them. It's a murderous, I mean, my mother was born there. It's a terrible regime. I don't think that mentality, that theory works in Iran. I want to, real quick before I let you go, I want to play this from your confirmation hearing. Take a listen.
We've got our work cut out for us right now with imminent threats coming from ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Iranian threat network, the cartels, the terrorist threats posed by Al-Qaeda, by ISIS, by the Iranian threat network. They're countless and they're unrelenting. And as you pointed out, they've only grown in recent years.
So you said there that it's an imminent threat. Iran is, I think I've listed off a number of different reasons why this is a logistical plan that the president has implemented here on Iran. Do you think did your mind change? Why did you say that at confirmation and then you say this now?
I was talking about the threat of terrorism. My role was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. So in order to deal with terrorism, the best way to do that is by targeted strikes like President Trump did against Qasem Soleimani. If you want to create more terrorists, you go in and do some sort of a massive regime change operation like we're doing right now with no real strategic end in sight. As a matter of fact, we're just simply listing off all the military hardware that we want to take out. We haven't stated what our clear objective is. The Israelis have a clear objective, and they want to topple the regime, and they're okay with a certain degree of chaos taking place. This is why I think this time window that we have right now, before we make a mistake like committing ground troops, is key for President Trump to get to the negotiating table. But in order for him to be taken seriously and for that to have a lasting effect, we have to restrain the Israelis, tell them they cannot go on the offense and spoil any kind of negotiations that are taking place. We have to assert our role and our dominance over the Israelis. We pay for their defense. We pay for their military. They in no way, shape, or form should be driving American foreign policy.
I still just want to ask you real quick, I mean, what is it about? I mean, this is a country the size of Michigan in population. How do you think that they have control over the most powerful president and military in the world?
They use the ecosystem of the media and then their access to our government through their advisors, through their donors, to move the red line, as I described. They run a very effective influence operation that's been very well documented, even going back to the Iraq War. The vast majority of our offensive operations in the Middle East over the last 20-plus years have largely been driven by the Israeli lobby. And we've seen Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party have been behind quite a good deal of this, whether it's Iraq or whether it's Syria. We've seen a heavy Israeli lobby. Now, they're not alone. There's American neoconservatives. There's a military-industrial complex. So
I think
they're not alone in their lobby.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's also just a lot of tremendously good reasons, as again with ballistics, I think there has been nuclear progress. I know you don't believe that they've been working on a nuclear weapon. I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that's not true. I want to stop there on Iran, and I want to ask you one final question about Charlie Kirk. You have major curiosities about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. You say you weren't allowed to look into foreign involvement there. You clearly insinuate Israel again, say that Charlie Kirk was against the war in Iran, and that you might be asked to testify for the Tyler Robinson defense, the defense of the young man that killed Charlie Kirk allegedly. Was Charlie Kirk influential enough over Trump that he needed to be assassinated by a country like Israel?
That I can't answer, but Charlie Kirk was vocally against a regime change war in Iran. He was in the White House prior to the 12-day war and Midnight Hammer petitioning against this very action. The only thing that I can say about the investigation of Charlie Kirk is that I believe there is more work that we need to do in terms of foreign nexus and also running down the individuals who had pre-knowledge of the assassination attempt, who were posting about it online.
But you think that Israel would commit an assassination like that? I mean, that's what's implied, and when I listen to the way you've spoken about it, and I think that is costing you some credibility as you make these claims about why this war started.
I think we just need to have a full investigation of what took place with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, considering the fact there's people with pre-knowledge that posted about it. There was individuals in the crowd who jumped up to create a diversion. There's a lot more, I think, that we don't know. And from my vantage point at the National Counterterrorism Center, in terms of running down every foreign nexus, I don't believe that we had an opportunity to do that.
I knew it was going to be an interesting conversation. Joe Kent, thanks for coming back on. We appreciate it. We'll continue to follow the war.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
Okay. Coming up, New Jersey's governor visits a mosque led by an accused terror sympathizer as New York's mayor makes everything about Islam. Feels like we're being taken over a bit. We've got that next with Victor Davis Hanson. And then later in news from the left, set to lose his job, Colbert's weird future.
Whenever news breaks.
A lot of destruction there. It was really the front lines in the battle.
And wherever it happens.
Humanitarian corridors opened up this morning.
We're trying to go rescue a 96-year-old lady that doesn't have anybody to take care of her.
They're using ingenuity. They refuse to give up.
It's incoming fire. Come on. Yeah, let's get down here.
Newsmax is there for you.
New Cologuard Plus?
Yep.
Colon cancer screening delivered to your door?
Check.
No prep?
Check.
Non-invasive?
Checkity check check.
And it detects 95% of colon cancer, similar to colonoscopy.
Check it and jerk.
The Cologuard Plus test is for people 45 plus at average risk. False positive and negative results may occur, not for those at high risk. Introducing Cologuard Plus. It's the box that checks all the boxes for screening. Ask your provider or request Cologuard Plus online.
Protect your family. Buy LifeVac now.
Thank you, Daddy.
That was us over 10 years ago.
Now, LifeVac is responsible for saving thousands of lives from choking.
In the time it takes you to pick up the phone and call, another life could be saved.
The LifeVac saved my life in 1 to 2 seconds.
Protecting families has always been our mission. I'm sure you love your family like I love my daughter. Do us all a favor and get your own LifeVac now.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822. Order now.
Pop up the volume. Go ahead. Crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
The reason that I love Ramadan so much is for everything else that it means. How Ramadan is also a lesson in the shallowness of instant gratification.
We are standing together, barefoot, shoulder to shoulder. At that time, it looks like your friend.
Eid Mubarak to everyone here. Salam alaikum.
All right, New York's first Muslim mayor spends most of his time injecting his religion into our city, taking over Prospect Park with a Muslim call to prayer, hosting breakfast meals on the floor at City Hall, eating with his hands. Muslim prayer rugs laid at an FDNY plaque for firefighters killed on 9/11 during Ramadan, which was a step too far for a lot of people in this city. This has given the darkest sides of Islam a lot of confidence. We have seen crowds of people in New York mourning the death of Iran's Ayatollah and Islamists pledging allegiance to terror groups. Take a listen.
We support Hezbollah here. Say it loud and say it clear. Say it loud and say it clear. We support Hezbollah here. We support Hezbollah here. We support Hamas here. We support Hamas here. New York City, you will see. New York City, you will see. Palestine will be free.
Something like that. Across the Hudson River in New Jersey, though, the state's new governor, Mikey Sherrill, is fully submitting. Visiting a mosque last week, her hair covered up so men wouldn't find her desirable. Very progressive for the new girl boss governor of New Jersey. The mosque that Sherrill visited is run by Palestinian-born Imam Mohammed Qatanani, accused by federal authorities of having ties to Hamas. Before moving to the U.S. in 1993, Qatanani was picked up by Israeli authorities and held for 3 months. Israel says he confessed to being a member of Hamas that the mayor of New Jersey is meeting with. U.S. immigration authorities tried deporting him in 2008. As you would expect, a left-wing judge allowed him to stay. And now he has the governor of the state, it appears, in his pocket. Victor Davis Hanson joins us with more on that. Good to see you again. Islam likes to assert its dominance over other cultures, other religions. Kind of feels like that's happening right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it's too bad that our elected officials are tone deaf to the fact that we are at war with the greatest promoter of Islamic terrorism in the world right now. And yet they seem to be indifferent when we've had just 2 weeks ago 4 incidents in Austin at Old Dominion College in Michigan, and right at the near the New York mansion, where we had naturalized citizens that were committing Allah Akbar in 2 cases they shouted before committing an act of terrorism. And yet they can't say one word about we have a problem with, you could say radical Islam if you want, but we have a problem here in the United States of people who don't understand that this country is a Western country and it's at war right now with this Islamic theocracy in the Middle East. And it's very hard to have people demonstrating on behalf of that and naturalized citizens, foreign students who are demonstrating and committing acts of terror. But, you know, we can't even talk about it without using the word Islamophobia. They can't, that's always a required prerequisite before you even do it. The other thing is, why do these elected officials are so schizophrenic? She wouldn't have done this when she was running for office. When Mamdani was running for office, he wouldn't have had a radical Islamicist in there right after these IEDs were. It's like Joe Biden in the sense that all of these leftists run in their primaries or in their candidacies as moderates. Right. They get elected and then they show who they are because they know their agenda does not appeal to the majority of America.
You had Ilhan Omar's daughter sharing a message online from L.A. to Rafah. There is one common oppressor, death to the colonial empire, life for our children. She lives in the United States. And she's allowed to she's allowed to say things like this, and she's comfortable saying things like this as her mother is a representative in this country, a colonial empire. Death to it.
If she really is worried about a genocidal regime, she should talk about her grandfather, because her grandfather was innately tied with the regime back in Somalia that butchered thousands of people. And then due to the misplaced magnanimity of the United States, we offered that family refuge, and they repaid that kindness with insults and disrespect, etc. Her mother has said this is a trashy country, that it's one of the worst countries in the world, that the dictatorship here is worse than the one in Somalia. All we've heard from the entire family, well apart from the immigration likely fraud that allowed her to come here, is, you know, ingratitude. And you think that at some point, someone in that family of 1 or 2 or 3 generations would say, we're so lucky to have been here after what happened in Somalia. But they can't even do that.
It's really disgusting, actually.
It is.
Victor Davis Hanson, we appreciate it. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
All right, after a college student is murdered by an illegal alien while stargazing in Chicago, the mayor promises he won't be deterred from letting it happen again.
This tragedy is not going to deter us from our work.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
Mike Hammond here, founder of Signal Relief. Meet Dr. Beth Dupree, breast cancer surgeon for over 35 years.
In my surgical career, I have treated thousands of patients, and finding effective pain relief has always been a priority. Believe me, I was skeptical, but Signal Relief caught my attention because it actually works. Clinical trials show over 85% of participants felt relief within 72 hours, with nearly half noticing a significant difference in just 15 minutes. Just place it near or above wherever you have the pain, whether it's your back, your shoulder, your neck, or your knee. Signal Relief Patch brings proven relief. I recommend it to my patients, family, and friends, and I get to witness and experience their pain relief firsthand, and that brings a smile to my face.
Join the hundreds of thousands who have experienced relief with the Signal Relief Patch, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Trust Dr. Dupree and me. The patch works.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
Americans have lost billions of dollars in their retirement accounts in the stock market since 2021.
And inflation is only getting worse.
Patriot Gold Group introduced our no-fee-for-life inflation protection IRA over 9 years ago.
I'm sure glad Eileen and I rolled over our IRAs into gold in 2019.
The only certainty since 2020 is gold. Gold is up over 200% and silver 300%. Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner, home of the no-fee-for-life IRA. Patriot Gold Group is patriots protecting patriots.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
Make your tax refund go places at Blue Compass RV. Lock in lower rates now. New RVs from $98 a month. Every RV includes a VIP membership to RV Complete. Over $5,000 in value. Shop tax refund specials at Blue Compass RV.
Welcome back. Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson unveiling the city's Abolish ICE snowplows. Residents voted to save the name. You know exactly the residents that voted for this, the kinds of people that voted to elect Brandon Johnson. A charade occurring today, less than a week, what timing really, after a Venezuelan illegal shot and killed an 18-year-old Loyola University freshman named Sheridan Gorman. They have an Abolish ICE snowplow, this big, grand little event right on the heels of this. When asked earlier, Mayor Johnson offered condolences to Gorman's family, the young woman's family, this way.
My condolences to the family of Sheridan. This is a terrible tragedy. This tragedy is not going to deter us from our work. In fact, it's going to challenge us all to double down on our efforts to ensure that we are protecting every single individual.
So it's a tragedy, but you pledge to not let it deter you from ensuring that tragedies like this will continue in your city, is the message from one of the dumbest mayors that has ever held office in this country. Loyola's campus newspaper, The Phoenix, with another beauty on this story, apologizing for their coverage of Sheridan's murder, an apology to the suspected killer. Not to the young girl, to the suspected killer, because they called him an illegal immigrant. But because of backlash from leftists on campus, they did this. They now call him a Rogers Park resident in the Loyola University newspaper after one of their students was killed for no reason whatsoever by an illegal alien. The editors noted in their apology, no human's existence is illegal, and we quickly changed our wording to reflect that. Unreal. Trish Regan joins us now. Alex Marlow also with us, editor-in-chief of Breitbart. Good to have you both here. Alex, as the editor-in-chief Breitbart News, what do you say to the editors of Loyola's newspaper?
I'm completely stunned by this, that how the Democrats feel like they need to, and of course the editors of these papers, that they need to make sure that they take a stand on behalf of illegal alien criminals. Is there a line that anyone can cross, just literally murdering people while they walk through a park? It's not enough for you to say, okay, well, maybe this individual should have been deported. This person should not be in this country. This person has no right to be here. Think about the concept of a sanctuary city. In Illinois, local law enforcement is prohibited from participating in federal immigration enforcement, and Chicago has even more stringent sanctuary rules. They can't help ICE at all. They can't deny any services to illegal aliens. They can't even inquire about their immigration status. The criminals know this, Rob, and that's why they're taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah, they've made it. We've capitulated so dramatically to these people that, I mean, why would they be afraid of anything at this point? Why wouldn't they create more caravans as soon as Trump's out of office and try to just dump back into the country? It really is just shameful. And Trish, the mayor holding this event, this big weird event on the heels of this murder, and then saying he's not going to let her killing deter his policies on immigration in his city. Your reaction to that?
I mean, it's pretty clear. They've chosen a side, and it's not the side of the American people. Yeah. And they keep rubbing our face in it over and over and over again. So if you don't get the message the first time, maybe listen again. He's not going to let it deter him. He does not care that innocent people are being victimized. He does not care. He's on the side of what he assumes to be the greater good. He's so focused on that alleged greater good that he doesn't care about the very obvious stuff in front of him, which is protecting the people of his city. I mean, it's like we're in the Twilight Zone. Seriously.
It is something. Alex, Supreme Court appears to be leaning toward Trump's request to block asylum seekers from entering the country along the U.S.-Mexico border. You can't just walk up anymore. If this goes the way it's looking like, you can't just walk up anymore and say asylum and just walk into the country and get a court date in 5 years. Critically important to do this. It's about time.
Yeah, of course. It's insanity that this wasn't already well established. That why do you have a right to come into our country illegally and just claim asylum when we know about all the asylum abuses that are taking place? It's all because we have an extremely activist legal system. It's been the subject of a lot of my research over the last couple of years. This has been the number one way the left has pushed back against Trump in his second term, is using lawfare to try to interfere with his agenda. And his agenda involves stopping people, including asylum claimants, very similar asylum rules in Mexico as in the United States. They can claim asylum there, and then we can sort it out from there. If they have a right to be here, they should try to get that adjudicated without entering the country illegally, getting absorbed in the country, and we never see them again.
Yeah, I mean, Trish, it's a system that's been so incredibly gamed. They have NGOs south of the border. We have cartels south of the border. They all know how to play this game, and millions of people used it. And we're supposed to just act like that's okay, and we just have to continue doing this?
Well, fortunately, we're not doing that. And that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump was elected, Rob. But the reality is the Democrats have a very specific goal in mind. I mean, don't kid yourself. The idea is you keep bringing people in. More and more and more people in, and you flood certain districts and certain states, and what do? You get them counted in the census, and then you get more representation. That's the methodology. I mean, and I think that's pretty clear and no longer conspiratorial to talk about, but there is an actual methodology that's going on there, a very sort of, a goal, if you would. And the goal is not in sync with what's good for America or for our economy. Think about the economic burden, right, that we're facing as a nation when we bring all these people in, and all these states then have to cover that. It's coming from somebody's tax dollars, which is ours. And so I think it's reaching a point where it is at a breaking point, and something has to change. But this is why people elected Trump.
There you go. Trish, Regan, Alex, Marlow, good to have you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Most
Rob.
California story ever. The gubernatorial debate canceled after the least popular candidates all screamed racism. We've got the frontrunner, Steve Hilton, up next.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
Benjamin Franklin.
Reverend Whitfield?
A match made in heaven.
Or just a deal made in a print shop?
Two voices.
My friends, you want to be free.
One idea.
The Constitution needs to speak to the heart of these people.
A new nation.
You are the lightning bolt, George. I am just the lightning rod. And who is the source, Ben?
A Great Awakening. Rated PG-13. In theaters April 3rd.
Don't kill your dog. Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, Matt.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
This little light of mine in the dark found a hopeful sign.
For those with depression not getting enough relief from their antidepressant, adding Caplyta can help you let in the light, providing greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone. And unlike some medications, Caplyta is also proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
All right, the most California story ever. Last night, the state canceled a gubernatorial debate after the weakest candidates screamed racism. The University of Southern California pulling what would have featured a debate that would have featured Sheriff Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton on the Republican side, Katie Porter, Eric Swalwell, and others on the Democrat side after low polling. More diverse candidates who couldn't make the stage claimed that the system is racist and that the debate was too white. Former Biden HHS Secretary and California Attorney General Javier Becerra, former LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, the school superintendent Tony Thurmond, and the former state controller Betty Yee were the ones who were left out, and they all in unison proclaimed that this was racist. Becerra posted, "We fought and we won. We stood up against an unfair candidate debate set up that prematurely chose winners and losers." Betty Yee saying, "We refuse to be overlooked and pushed aside. We will fight to be heard in the California governor's race." By the way, the mechanism used to decide who was on the stage last night was devised by a USC professor. It had absolutely nothing to do with race at all. And with that, we bring in Steve Hilton, who's trying to be the governor of California, and he's doing a pretty good job so far. Steve, I'm sorry I didn't get to see a debate last night. Your response to Becerra and those that said this was about race.
I mean, look, she's fighting to be heard, but no one's listening. She's on about 1 or 2%. The reason that these low polling Democrats, the LPDs as I call them, were excluded is nothing to do with race. It's because they're not doing well enough in the race. They're not getting anywhere. They're not raising money. They're not getting any support, but they insist on going into the debate. They want the rules to be broken to have them in because of political correctness. The more worrying thing, of course, it's classic California, exactly as you said, and the fact that they cancel it within 24 hours. I found out about it yesterday morning on the way to the airport at 6 a.m., flying down to LA to do the debate. On the day of the debate, they cancel it. So there's the shambles and incompetence, all those things. But actually, the really serious part is that the final thing that caused it to be canceled was these whining LPDs, the low polling Democrats, got their cronies in the California legislature, the leader of the Democrats in the state assembly, the leader of the state Senate, powerful body, to write to USC demanding that they be included. Now, that is corruption. That is bullying and intimidation. The whole regime in California is corrupt and useless, and that's why I'm very confident we're going to kick them out this year.
Well, we're about, I think, a little over 2 months, right, away from this primary. The top two advance to the main election.
Yes.
That's how it works in California. Top two get there regardless of party. Right now, the top two, as it stands, with a lot of people in the race, are you and Bianco. You're in the lead right now. Obviously, we know that the Democrat Party in California is not going to allow that to happen. So they're going to consolidate the rest of them, and they're going to pick one or two. And, you know, it'll probably, hopefully, be at least you and a Democrat together. But how do you make sure that that happens? Like what's your move now? Because now it becomes kind of like a chess game, right? To figure out how you get in and make sure that this top two thing works.
Exactly. And actually, there's a real danger that because the machine seems to be getting behind Eric Swalwell, and you got the billionaire climate fanatic Tom Steyer, who's already spent nearly $100 million. There's plenty more where that came from. There's a possibility, if we continue to split the Republican vote, that you have two Democrats in the final. So my argument, I'm on the road the whole time, is we got to get behind one Republican candidate. I'm leading in the polls. I'm leading on fundraising by a lot. I've got the broad policy expertise, the business expertise and experience. I think I'm the strongest candidate. And on the other side, my Republican opponent, there's a lot of vulnerability there. Yeah. He took a knee for Black Lives Matter. He's for amnesty on immigration. He says he won't cooperate with the Trump administration to enforce immigration law. Republicans don't like that. Right. And so I think it is time that we really take this seriously and get behind the leading candidate. And right now, that is me. There's
so much that California needs. The people that live there, no matter what they vote with, they know that the state has needs. And you're a very sensible guy, and you work really hard. And I think that if they put you up against that idiot Swalwell, I think it's going to be very hard for anybody that has common sense to say, I'm going to go with that on the screen. There's just no way. They're going to have to, I think they're going to have to say, I'm going with Steve Hilton because he's just a pragmatic guy that can get it done, and this is a state that needs a lot of stuff done. I got to leave it there. But, Steve, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Rob. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Delaware judge dings Elon Musk for $2 billion and then celebrates it online and mocks him. Not a good move. The rot of our judicial system. Next in News from the Left.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
When my mother heard about Pure Talk's latest offer, she said, Michael, that's a third of what I'm paying my current provider. How's that even possible? I said, Ma, your current provider spent $12 billion last year on advertising and promotion. Pure Talk hired me to make a few commercials on my iPhone. That's why you can get unlimited talk and text with plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. You're welcome. Pure Talk. Everything you need. Nothing you don't.
Big news! Super Beta Prostate is better than ever with a new advanced formula, enhanced with saw palmetto.
In time, you'll notice less urges to urinate, improved bladder emptying, and you won't be getting up at night for so many bathroom trips.
Super Beta Prostate is the #1 selling brand for men's prostate and urinary health, and the #1 recommended by urologists. And now the new advanced formula is better than ever with saw palmetto.
Super Beta Prostate works.
Find it at these retailers.
What's gold is new again, pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of preserved gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with preserved gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Welcome back. A little breaking news. The president speaking right now at the National Republican Congressional Committee's annual fundraising dinner in Washington. First public remarks today, talking about mail-in ballots right now. Let's take a listen.
Respected people. And the conclusion was never allow mail-in ballots, because if you do, there'll be massive cheating. And that's what happens. We can't do it. So we have to do something about that. But that poll's not at 99%. That poll's at about 75%, 80%. But voter ID polls at 96%, 97, 98% with Republicans. 86% just came out with both Republicans and Democrats. The only one that fight it are the Democrat leaders, because they want to cheat. The only reason you say, that's the only reason, I don't want voter identification with a picture. I always add with a picture. It's true.
A little bit from the president there, and with that we go to news from the left. All right, our legal system is totally rotting. Elon Musk demanding the recusal of a Delaware judge, Kathleen McCormick, from a high-stakes Tesla case. The reason why is unbelievable. McCormick busted for publicly rooting for and supporting the plaintiff against Musk on social media. Lawyers for Elon and Tesla filing a motion centered around the judge's activity with their LinkedIn account after a federal jury in California found Elon liable for tweets posted in 2022 over his $44 billion Twitter deal. The complaint included a screenshot of this LinkedIn post from Harry Plotkin, who worked for the other team, the other lawyers team that sued Musk for securities fraud. Plotkin saying, "Sorry, Elon. Sorry, Quinn Emanuel." That was Elon's law firm. "Thanks $2 billion for your help in this trial. It was a pleasure working against you. Congratulations to the trial team for standing up for the little guy against the richest man in the world." And the judge in the case, Judge McCormick, liked the post. Can you believe that? How are you a judge if you're this careless? Stupid. Elon's law firm writing she created a perception of bias against Mr. Musk in these cases. Recusal is necessary and warranted. And of course, McCormick has denied intentionally supporting the post, saying, "Oh, my computer just accidentally clicked it. I had no idea." They should wipe away the entire case, in my opinion, more than just a recusal. Next up, we showed you last night this bizarre woke new Star Trek series canceled after 2 seasons. Nobody was watching this bizarre thing. One of the stars is not happy about it.
Starfleet Academy is not going to be coming back for season 3. Obviously, gutted. I thought we made an amazing show. Obviously, the world is still not ready to hear the message of love, peace, infinite diversity, acceptance, the eschewing of violence and senseless wars, and preferably with the same message and not completely whitewashed.
Or it was just a really bad show. Could have just been that. I don't think it's so cosmic, lady. And finally, after rapper Jay-Z delivered us one of the worst halftime performances we've ever seen at a Super Bowl with Bad Bunny in this total freak show, Jay-Z, who coordinates all this for the NFL because the NFL is so woke, is playing the victim, telling GQ magazine there's clearly an agenda to silence voices in our community, a heavy right-wing agenda. You give us a halftime show geared toward about 8% of the population of this country, and when we don't like it, you blame us. That's a very Jay-Z thing to do. All right, why the president could be in the next Lord of the Rings.
Closed captioning brought to you by MagnaLife Knee Pain Relief for pain, stiffness, and inflammation of the knees.
The pain in your knees is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Knee Pain Relief Gel. It has worked wonders. I love it.
Available at your local retailer.
So, here is a before of my stomach before Sono Bello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sono Bello.
I had some loose, wiggly skin, and it is no longer there thanks to Sono Bello.
Our expert surgeons use micro laser technology to safely target and remove your diet-resistant fat and tighten loose skin permanently.
I wanted the results of the tummy tuck, but not the downtime. I had a 10 out of 10 experience.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform, and we're proud to be America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
In just one visit, Sono Bello got rid of my love handles and my belly fat.
Do you want that flat stomach? You go get that flat stomach.
Call Sono Bello.
Get in there for your free consultation. Do this for you.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today.
Mike Hammond here, founder of Signal Relief. Meet Dr. Beth Dupree, breast cancer surgeon for over 35 years.
In my surgical career, I have treated thousands of patients, and finding effective pain relief has always been a priority. Believe me, I was skeptical, but Signal Relief caught my attention because it actually works. Clinical trials show over 85% of participants felt relief within 72 hours, with nearly half noticing a significant difference in just 15 minutes. Just place it near or above wherever you have the pain, whether it's your back, your shoulder, your neck, or your knee. Signal Relief Patch brings proven relief. I recommend it to my patients, family, and friends, and I get to witness and experience their pain relief firsthand, and that brings a smile to my face.
Join the hundreds of thousands who have experienced relief with the Signal Relief Patch, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Trust Dr. Dupree and me. The patch works.
Doctors recommend turmeric more than any other supplement for joint health. I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric, made with the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric, clinically tested to support joint health and a healthy inflammation response. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Your tax refund is in, and at Blue Compass RV, it's going places. Shop 100 plus locations, over 15,000 new and used RVs. Lock in lower rates with new RVs from $98 a month. Shop tax refund specials at Blue Compass RV.
Marlene trusts Prevagen for her brain, and this is her story.
Hi, I'm Marlene. Taking care of myself, it's also taking care of the family as well. I've been taking Prevagen for around 5 years now. That helps me maintain who I am and gives me more confidence. I'm taking Prevagen and telling my family and telling everyone around me, I know what it's going to do for them. Prevagen works for me, and I see the results.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
To a hacker, your tax return isn't just paperwork, it's a gold mine. Your social security number and bank data are their biggest payday of the year. Old antivirus software can't keep up. You need PCmatic. Our default deny technology blocks every single threat that hasn't been pre-approved. If we don't know it, we block it. Secure your return right now. Buy PCmatic antivirus and we will give you PCmatic VPN for free. American-made security for homes, businesses, and government agencies. Visit PCmatic.com.
Finally tonight, Stephen Colbert finding his next act after his show ends in May, finally. Announcing he's going to be co-writing the next Lord of the Rings film. Nobody saw this coming, revealing it'll be based on fogs on the Barrow Downs, the 8th chapter of the Fellowship of the Ring, where hobbits are trapped by a Barrow Wight in an unnatural fog, and a lot of nerd stuff that I don't understand. But we did get a sneak peek of the villain, Rob Finnerty.
I believe it. Is that a real thing? Is he really? You're serious?
I think so.
I am. Are you not a Lord of the Rings?
It's been all the talk today about him co-writing this movie.
You have like a nerdy side, right? Like
not that nerdy.
I like the Lord of the Rings. Didn't read the books, but definitely saw the movies. But there's not an 8th one that I know of. That's
it might be fake news.
I've said too much. I've said too much.
If it is, we'll own it.
All right, Rob. Good to see you. Finnerty starts right now.